This is the assignment. It is a floor plan. You do not have to get super crazy with the drawing. Because drawing in Excel is not cool. It's really hard. So I'll show you a little bit about it, but you are going to have to make a little drawing of a home with 6 exterior walls. So I don't care about interior wall, just 6 exterior. That means it can't be a box, right? A box would be 4 exterior walls. So you got to go a little more complicated than a box. All right, so that's the first part. Underneath those walls is a foundation. That's concrete. Okay. The cross section of the concrete looks like this. This is called a footer. This is called the stem wall. And your house, its walls sit on the stem wall. And the concrete is underneath the house, and it keeps the house from sinking into the ground. That's the basic concept of a foundation. Okay. So when I talk about footer, foundation footer, 24-inch by 6-inch, that's this bottom piece, right? And a 24-inch tall stem wall, it's also 6 inches. Okay, so you got to understand what that is, that concept of a concrete footer. Now, in Excel, you'll draw it just like this. Top-down view, it's called the floor plan view. And these are the walls. Yeah, I just have 4 walls. You're going to have 6. And then these, that's the concrete footer. It's flat to the ground, right? The stem wall comes right up to the walls. You can't really see it, but it's there. Okay, so this is the kind of drawing that you're going to create in Excel. The way I did it is just insert shapes, 1 line at a time. Like you grab a line and you make it. You can drag these points around. Once I get a line going, I usually make them black. Then I just Control C, hit escape, Control V, and it'll place it. Who knows where it places it, right? But now I can get my second line going. So it could be down here. So that's how I did these top bottoms. Then I did the sides, just Control Copy, Control Velcro, rather than going back up to insert, shapes, line, every time. That's a pain. Okay. You'll notice that my, oh man, I'm trying to run some AutoCAD right now. That's weird. It's Excel. My corners aren't perfect. Yours don't have to be perfect. Get them fairly good. Like you can zoom in. There's a little zoom button over here. Right? But you can see they're not perfect. It's fine. Right? For doing drawings in Excel, it's absolutely fine. All right, then you're going to do some totaling of things. Once you get it drawn, output, I want it to be footer volume. Everyone understand what volume is? That's like length times width times height, right? So what I'm having you do is calculate how much concrete we're going to need for the footer and how much concrete we're going to need for the stem wall. Okay, so you kind of got to visualize it. It might help to actually take a piece of paper and sketch it out, right? To get a feel for like, oh, what's this going to look like? And then how do I calculate the volume? And of course, I want the calculation to be done in Excel, right? So you need some input areas. We need some output areas. Again, stick with the same kind of shading. So I can find, that allows me to find the input areas easily, or somebody else, or yourself a year from now, right? And then the output calculations somewhere easily to find. So total concrete is this first part. And then I'm going to have you use the second sheet. So I haven't really shown you that, but here's sheet 1. And if I go plus, here's sheet 2. Right? So sheet 2 is here. Sheet 1 is here. If I have numbers in sheet 2, I'm just going to put in some numbers, 60 by 50. Maybe that's 50 feet, 60 feet, right? And let's say I want to get the area of the 60 and the 50, but I want to do it here at sheet 2. Area equals, and then I go into a new cell and start my formula, right? Just like we did before. Start it with an equal sign. And now I just want to take cell times cell, right? So once you get your formula started, you can pop over to sheet 1 and you can click a cell. And then you can pop back to sheet 2 and you'll see that it put in notation to go look at this other sheet, right? And some cell information. So it'll do it for you. You don't have to type it in. Then I'll go times, I'll pop back over and I'll go that one. I'll pop back over and I'll say, let's do it. Didn't do it. Well, it doesn't know why. Oh. Well, that's not good.
Said sheet 2.
Yeah, I know. Why didn't it pop over there? Is it gonna make me
Do it over again.
try to use equals? Should be able to just go here and pop it in.
There we go, sheet 1.
Oh, maybe I just gotta click up here and finish it. I bet that's it. And then click here and finish it, right? Then hit enter and it pops me back.
Oh,
Yeah. So once you pop over to sheet 1, you gotta finish your formula up there in that formula block. So I'll show you that again. I'll add them this time. Equal sign. Head over to here, pop it in, right? That it gets the right thing. And then I can go plus that one. And it'll do it. Okay?
will it pop back and forth to sheets like that? Let's say I wanted to add something on sheet 1 to sheet 2.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can go back and forth either direction.
Okay, but we
Yep.
want to make sure we complete the operation inside the,
Yeah, inside the formula bar for making equations. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so that's how you use the second sheet. And again, want it organized like a homework with your name up there and all that good stuff. Good titles, good presentation of it. Like if I did a print preview, that doesn't look so good. But I can squeeze this down a little bit and then I could right justify this. When I get to the home tab. And that looks a little better. And I could put a unit in there, right? Feet squared. Okay. So the other thing, which I don't think you're going to need on this, but I just wanted to touch on, is if you ever do trigonometry, here I'll use a number that we know the answer to, well, some of us do. If you ever do trigonometry, Excel thinks in radians, not degrees. Yeah, so if you haven't had radians and degrees yet, this will sound pretty strange, but our sine functions and our calculators work off of degrees. We understand that. If it's in radians, it's going to give you a very, like if I wanted the sine of that number, the function is sine. And as soon as you start typing it, it finds the function for you, right? So if I could 2-click on that, it'll even put the bracket in for me. And then I choose the 30, and then I close the bracket. It should give me the sine of 30. Which is 0.5, by the way, if it was 30 degrees. No. It's doing the sine of 30 radians. Okay? So just so you know, if you're going to run trigonometry, you've got to switch your numbers to degrees. Or switch them to radians, either one. You got to flip it back and forth. You can't input 30. So there is a conversion for that. Radians, oops, need that equal sign. Converts degrees to radians, right? It gives you a little, kind of tells you what it is. So I'm going to 2-click that. And I'm going to take my 30, put a bracket around it. So it's turning 30 into radians, right? So now that's a radian number. Now my sine function should work because Excel loves radians. And it should be 0.5. Okay, so you can convert numbers. Like if you want to work in degrees, do it. Work in the 30, put the 30 down, but then somewhere else have it converting to radians. So then you can do trigonometry with it. Sine, cosine, tangent, all of those cool things for triangles. You can use it. You just have to remember Excel thinks in radians. So there is also degrees. Oops, need that equal sign. And degrees does just the opposite, converts radians to degrees. Okay. So if you needed to go the other direction sometime, you could. All those functions are here. Here's the most common function used, summation. It's going to sum up a row, right? Under that are more common functions, average, max, min, and then there's more functions. And in here, you have all the functions. So you can select a category, math and trig, and then you can just scroll through all the functions available in Excel. It's as powerful as your calculator. It can run anything.
When you go to math and trig, will that convert radians for you?
That function's in here. You got to find it. So you got to know what you want to do, right? So if I want to do radians, so I click on it, it tells me what it does, right? Converts degrees to radians. Here, what's rand array do? Oh man, it looks complicated. It's like it takes in rows, columns, min, max, and integers, and returns an array of random numbers. Cool. No idea what that is, right? So there's a lot of functions in there that you'll never use. But there's some very common functions in here too that you'll use. That's the power of Excel, is using formulas. All right, let's go back to the assignment. Sheet 3. So sheet 1, this. Sheet 2, this. Sheet 3 is going to be draw 3 closed shapes, easy, hard, and difficult. And again, calculate the area, the perimeter, and the volume. So if you use a triangle, you know, you might need the hypotenuse. You might want to practice with sine, cosine, or tangent if you've had it. If you haven't had sine, cosine, and tangent, don't do that then. Just use Pythagorean theorem like you did before, if you did. Okay, so 3 sheets in this thing. The first sheet is going to have your drawing, and you can copy that drawing to the second sheets if you want, if it's helpful to you, right? So to copy in Excel, because remember this thing is just a series of lines, but I switched it to a group. So I'm going to ungroup it and show you. So group and ungroup. I just right clicked on it. So now it's these individual lines which you will create. But if you change, you know, a row or a column, it mucks with your drawing. So that's not cool.
It's not grouped. If it was
Yeah.
grouped, put it all-
If you group it, then it mucks with it less, right? You don't have to you don't have to worry about it as much. So when you get your drawing done, the trick is you have to choose every object. So I'm holding the shift key down. I have all that outside. I have those two, these two, holding the shift key down. And then I need
Select
these
all.
4. Huh?
I think let's select all of this.
There is not. There's no window that I could find. All right, so I have them all selected. Then you get on any one of the lines and you right click and you can group it. Now it's a group, like you can spin it around. It's kind of nice. And when you mess with one of these, it does change it, but it doesn't mess with it as bad. Like you can easily just, you know, grab a hot point, pull it back out to where you wanted it. Okay. So grouping it's the way to go. And then if I wanted to copy it, I just go Control C, go to sheet 2 and Control V, and in it comes. Right? And that might be helpful for your second sheet, just so people can see what the heck you're doing. I think that was second sheet is areas. Yeah. So that might be helpful.
Will it change the scale of it if you go to the next sheet? Or you have to switch the scale?
It does not change the scale. So it doesn't really understand scale. It's not a drawing package. It doesn't understand scale. So if you've had AutoCAD, feel free to open AutoCAD and make a drawing. Because that will work also. You can just copy that drawing right into Excel. So that's cool, but not required, because I know we haven't had AutoCAD. Questions? Yes.
Or, is it possible to make like a, kind of like a header, like you do in AutoCAD, in Excel, so that we can repeat our, kind of like a.
Headers and footers, there probably is. I've never done it, so I wouldn't be able to teach you. But if I was doing it, right, I'd input my information. right? And maybe the date. What's the date?
Yeah, it's good.
Is it an important day? Yes, that's how you look at it, right? I think it's an important day. All right, so if I did that, right, and that's gonna be my page, then I would just take this and do Control C, that's a copy. And go to sheet 1 and figure out where I want it and go to Control V. And it'll bring it right in, right?
Okay,
What do the numbers mean? What do the numbers mean? Yeah, it's too small. Open it up.
okay, so you want a header on each page?
Absolutely. Yep. And this zoom is just the zoom, it's just the zoom, right? It's not scale.
Okay.
Yeah. If you need to get rid of, like, often I'll start just somewhere in Excel, not thinking about, oh, I wish I would have started over here, right? You can highlight columns and then you can right click and hit delete, and that'll just take those columns away and it re-letters them back to the letter A to begin with. So yeah, you can do that. Like you can do it with rows too. Oops, that's my 50. I don't want to do that. Right click and delete. Jumps everything around. So just be careful when you're doing that. But that's can be helpful just to organize things to see, oh, am I getting this on, one piece of paper? Not quite. Not quite on a piece of paper yet.
You have to physically use that.
You want us to have units in the video.
Have what units? Absolutely. Yep, my numbers should have units. Remember, that's got to be in the cell next to it. Absolutely. Notice I did a line type here. So when you click on a line, oh, I got to ungroup it. Group, ungroup. You click on a line, you get line properties over here, right? Sometimes those line properties show up here, but they're shown up here. And then here is dash type, they call it. So I just switched it like it was continuous like that, right? And I just switched it to something different for the footer. So it didn't hurt my head as much looking at it. They were all continuous lines and kind of ugly, and I switched the color, right? See how it's the page break is starting to show up? That'll show up and disappear. Once you do a print, one print, it'll show up. Here's the next page break over here. So if I wanted it all on one page, I maybe need to get rid of this column, scoot it over. Oh, made it. Looks like I made it. But you can also just slide these a little smaller. This will adjust over as you work. So that's looking a little better for the print preview. It's all on one page, right? That's what we want. Good questions. Any other questions? This will probably be our last Excel, and then we'll move on. Any questions on this document? So you gotta do a little drawing. You gotta have 6 walls, 6 inches thick, but you can, there's no inputting values. I just guessed. I made it look like that, right? So don't make your walls too thin. They won't show up on your print. Don't make them too thick. So kind of do your first wall and then go to print preview and say, oh, that looks pretty good. They're not too thick, they're not too thin, but there's no way to like make that perfect in Excel. It's really just sketching. And then get a foundation in your footer. So if the wall's 6 inches, then obviously the footer is 4 times wider than that. So just kind of stick with that kind of theory.
The wall 6 inches should be.
Yeah, yep. All right. Then you have some volumes to calculate. We want to know how much concrete it's gonna take. So that means you do need to give length to your walls. You got to know that information, right? So I got to know that 50, maybe that's the wall. So that needs to be in here somewhere.
So we're gonna have inputs for the wall and for the footers.
Right? Yeah, you should, absolutely. Or maybe you just put it up here and say wall equals, 50 feet.
We put like a leader line maybe?
You can do all kinds of stuff, yep. So in this symbols and shapes, there's all kinds of shapes. So yeah, you can take an arrow and you can go and point to it. Right? So there's a lot of tweaking that you can do. And then maybe your footer, you can just put right by the, the corner. Whatever you want. Make it clear. Then that would become an input, right? I should be able to go in and change numbers and get all new numbers out of your spreadsheet. That's the theory. Questions? All right. That's it. We are in lab. I'm here to help wrestle with it here, and you'll probably get it done faster.